For 3,000 years, one civilization ruled the Nile. It built wonders we still cannot fully explain. This is the story of ancient Egypt. Cleopatra lived closer in time to the first moon landing than to the building of the Great Pyramid. That is how old ancient Egypt really was. A civilization so ancient, its own history felt ancient to itself. For 3,000 years, Egypt built, worshipped, and buried its god-kings along one river. It raised monuments so vast that we still argue about how they were even built. So how did a thin strip of desert become the most enduring civilization the world has ever seen? The answer begins with a single river. Egypt sits in one of the harshest deserts on Earth, but straight through it runs the Nile. Every year the river flooded, then pulled back, leaving behind black, rich soil perfect for farming. The Egyptians called their land Kemet, the Black Land, after that life-giving mud. Around 3100 BC, one king united the villages along the river into a single kingdom. And at the head of that kingdom stood a living god. The pharaoh was not just a king. He was believed to be a god walking among men. He was the link between the people and the heavens, and his word was absolute law. His greatest duty was to hold back chaos and keep the sun rising and the river flooding. To live forever, the pharaohs built the most famous monuments on Earth. The Great Pyramid of Giza used more than 2 million stone blocks, some as heavy as a car. It rose nearly 150 meters and stayed the tallest building on Earth for almost 4,000 years. 1,000 years later, the Romans themselves looked at the pyramids as impossibly ancient wonders. And even today, we are not fully sure how they moved the very heaviest stones. For a long time, people assumed the pyramids were built by slaves under the whip. But we now know they were raised by thousands of skilled, paid, and well-fed workers. They were given bread and beer, and even had their own doctors waiting on site. Because for the Egyptians, death was not the end. It was a whole point. They believed the soul needed its body to survive, so they perfected mummification. The brain was thrown away, but the heart was kept and weighed against a feather of truth. Their tombs were sealed with gold, food, and everything a soul might need for eternity. But Egypt was not only tombs and gods. It was knowledge. Egypt gave the world one of its first writing systems, hieroglyphs. For 1,500 years, no one alive could read them until the Rosetta Stone unlocked the code. Egyptian doctors set broken bones and wrote some of the first medical books in history. They mapped the stars, built a 365-day calendar, and mastered geometry to raise their temples. And yet, no civilization lasts forever, not even one that lasted 3,000 years. Egypt grew old and weak and was invaded by the Assyrians, then conquered by the Persians. Then, in 332 BC, a young Macedonian named Alexander the Great took Egypt without a fight. After him, Greek kings ruled the land of the pharaohs for 300 years. The very last of them was the most famous woman in all of history, Cleopatra. When she died in 30 BC, 3,000 years of pharaohs ended, and Egypt became a province of Rome. The pharaohs are gone, and their language fell silent for 1,000 years. But their pyramids still stand in the desert, exactly where they were left. Ancient Egypt didn't just make history. It became the yardstick that all other history is measured against.